Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. So, the second international break is going to be done at some point today, and I thought I'd just release one a little early. The worst part about this ending is that there's another one in a month. So, hang in there, guys. How was your international break? Have you relaxed? Have you come up with your strategies? Are you ready to kick on? For me, I've been sick, so I used this time to recuperate and I'm feeling much better now. Thank you for asking. So, let's get into it. Now, I decided to look at the top transfers in and out this week to just see what the collective mindset looks like. So, the top transfers in this week: Semenyo, 520,000 people have brought him in. Haaland, 437,000 have brought him in. Voltemada, 429,000 have brought him in. Caicedo, 362,000 have brought him in. Timber, 299,000 have brought him in. So if those are the people coming in, who's going out? Salah at the top, 450,000 are done with him, followed by João Pedro, 258,000. Grealish, 257, but he's injured. Gyökeres, 236,000. And Richarlison, 222,000. So, the important thing to know is that the game week starts on Saturday and ends on Monday. And the kickoff will be Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. Their recent head-to-head has 2 Chelsea victories, 2 draws, and 1 loss to Forest. So Chelsea have the upper hand, even when Nuno was there. Now, with Ange, I think that slightly puts them over the top in terms of favourites for this encounter. However, it doesn't mean it'll be 0-0 or 1-0. Chelsea have been a bit flaky at the back, and Forest are definitely flaky at the back. It's amazing how much a manager can change, because these are essentially the same players that had a good record last season, but now they can't defend or prevent anybody from scoring against them. It's wild. So just in case you're wondering if a manager makes a difference, you can see how their philosophy impacts their performances on the pitch. When I look at the recent scores, all of the games have been tight. They've been well contested, and I believe it should be more skewed towards Chelsea. Now, if I am choosing Chelsea players right now, I know João Pedro hasn't been great, and a bunch of us have removed him. So I wouldn't say bring him back, but I would say you're looking at Caicedo, you're looking at Neto, and that's it. That's it. It's not clear who's back quite yet, but so far, Neto and Caicedo are the best bets. On the Forest end, Wood has been removed by many of you. I wouldn't encourage people to get into Forest players right now until we know who they are. But should you be believing in them for some reason, I would say believe in their attack more than the defense, because their defense has disappeared completely. And to that end, I would just say look at possibly Morgan Gibbs-White if he plays. You have Ndoye and still Wood. You see, it's tough because Ange is still trying to figure out what he wants from his team and who can deliver that for him. And they haven't delivered, so he hasn't figured that out. So expect a few more rotations as he maneuvers his team, trying to figure out what will give him what he needs. Moving on to Brighton versus Newcastle. Brighton have won 3 of their last 5 games and drawn 2. So they are favourites. So if you're looking to get a result or even to gamble in this game, it's probably 1x to Brighton. Now, if you're looking for Brighton players, I would encourage you to have Mente, Mitoma, and I guess Welbeck, or is it Jorginho? On the Newcastle end, at this point, Voltemada looks like their best player. Well, he scores at home. So I would encourage you to wait until he's at home. But if you're just getting in early, Voltemade is not a bad pick. Jacob Murphy is not bad. And maybe Gordon. Burnley versus Leeds. When they met in the Championship, they drew 0-0 and Burnley won 1-0. That is their most recent encounters with each other. So one would say Burnley have the slight advantage in that they're unbeaten in 2. Burnley and Leeds have been impressive. Last time out, they both lost. They both can't lose this game. So if you're looking at Leeds, if you're looking at the back, you have Rodon. If you're looking at the top, you have Okafor and Mr. Calvert-Lewin. For Burnley, Anthony is their best player right now. And then you can go with any defender that you please and Foster at the top. Esteve scored twice in the last game out, so maybe not him, but other defenders, yeah. Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth. Now, Crystal Palace lost their unbeaten run last time to Everton. And with this space in between the matches, will they have recovered mentally or will Bournemouth take advantage of this? They have 2 0-0 draws in their last 2 encounters, and then Bournemouth won 2 and Crystal Palace has won 1. So Bournemouth are slight favourites, but if you're looking at recent history, signs are that it might be a draw. Now, if you do believe it will be a draw, Senesi is a great person to have from Bournemouth, and Gehi or Munoz or even Richards are great prospects to have on the Crystal Palace end. Now, the best player moving forward for Bournemouth, without a doubt, is Semenyo, who after Haaland is probably the second best asset to own this season so far. On the Crystal Palace end, Sarr is a great player to have as well, and Mateta. On the Bournemouth end, it's now, if you're looking for a third player after Senesi and Semenyo, you are likely looking towards either Kluivert or Evanilson, but I would have Semenyo and Senesi first. Porha, Riyad and Doucouré are injured for Crystal Palace, while Smith and Onana are injured for Bournemouth. Man City take on Everton, and as you can imagine, Everton have not had a favourable result against Manchester City in a very long time. Manchester City are overwhelming favourites. Haaland is probably the best captain this weekend, and maybe you can get Reinders or Doku if Doku plays, because that Pep Roulette is such a beast. And then you have Vardiol, who is back. He had a great assist in the last game. And those are the 3 Manchester City players I'd recommend. On Everton's end, I wouldn't be entering this game, but if you already have them, I guess Ndiaye is not bad. Grealish seems to be unavailable, of course, because he's a Manchester City player. So that makes it a bit tougher for them. And then you can have your Tarkowski or your Pickford, because you know that they're going to be peppered with shots and they will have to make a lot of defensive contributions. So if you're entering Everton, think of this game as who will be most likely to give you defensive contributions. That's all, or DEFCON as they call them. That's how you should approach Everton players in this encounter. Sunderland versus Wolves. Previous history doesn't matter because it's aged and irrelevant. Now, Sunderland were beaten by Manchester United last time out, and to be fair to them, they could have done better. Wolves, on the other hand, are trying to do better, and they haven't lost in 3 games now. So this will be an interesting encounter. It'll be tight, or maybe just a whitewash. These are those games which are hard to tell. Now, if you're looking at Wolves players, I think Moreno and Strand Larsen are good bets, and also the Korean guy. I still believe in my boy Arias, but he just hasn't adjusted well enough yet. I believe he will. On the Sunderland end, you have Mr. Isidore, then you have Adingra, and Lefi, or is it Lefe? I don't know. However it's pronounced, that person is a person you should have, those 3. Fulham versus Arsenal. In their last 5 games, there have been 2 draws, 2 wins for Arsenal and 1 win for Fulham. Arsenal are favorites. They're top of the table. They're table toppers, leaders. I think that they should win this game. I'm hoping for a clean sheet, but this encounter hasn't had a clean sheet in about 6 matches. So the odds are it'll be 2-1, 3-1, something like that. I'm just going to have to hope that Gabriel scores. Fulham were beaten last time out by Semenyo's brilliance and Kluivert's wonder goal. And then Arsenal did the business. They came out with a victory. They beat West Ham 2-0 and people were disappointed by Gyökeres. When it comes to injuries, Tete, Jimenez, Muniz, Lukic are out for Fulham while Jesus, Havertz, Odegaard, Madueke and Hincapié are out. Now for Arsenal, I would say the best way to have them is maybe have a defender, be it your Gabriel or your Calafiori, or then you have your midfielders. And at this point, I think you have to choose between maybe have both, maybe have Saka and Rice. Because if they get a penalty, it'll be Saka who will take it. Odegaard will be injured, so Rice might play a more important role. And also, I think this is also the kind of game where you'll have a Merino Zubimendi. But I would recommend Rice, Saka, and Gabriel. For Fulham, given that they don't have any strikers, I think it will be a bit of a tall order. Semenyo scored last time. I think Harry Wilson is also a safe bet. And then maybe Adama. On Sunday, we will see Tottenham take on Aston Villa. Tottenham were disappointing last time out, mainly because they did not play Richarlison when we all needed him to play Richarlison. They did beat Leeds, but it wasn't inspiring. Now, Aston Villa, on the other hand, have been impressive. They have now won at least 3 games in a row. They have won 4 games in a row. So the momentum is with them. Now, when it comes to head-to-head, it is 3 wins for Aston Villa and 2 wins for Fulham in their last 5 encounters. What does this mean? Well, let's see. Most recently, Tottenham have been beaten twice by Villa. Now, does this mean it should continue? Aston Villa are the team in form. I would give them the slight edge. And if you believe this to be true, I would say Marlon, Rodgers, and Watkins are the way to go because I don't trust both of these teams' defenses. Now, on the Tottenham end, Kudus should be your first choice, and then maybe Brennan Johnson. And if you have to, you can have Richarlison. I'm still going to have Richarlison because I already have him, but I wouldn't be bringing him on. I'll be bringing in Kudus. When it comes to injured players, Kulusevski, Solanke, Madison, Takai, Dragusin, Moani, and Bissouma are unavailable for Tottenham. Buendia, Sancho, Watkins, Mings, and Tielemans. Watkins is doubtful, so maybe don't bring him in. Looking at Liverpool versus Manchester United. Now, Man United beat Sunderland, so that's something. Liverpool, there's been a joke going on that says they were grateful for the international break because it meant they didn't have to lose again. They've lost 3 games in a row now. So this will be a good game for both sides. One, if Manchester United wins, it means they have learned something. If Liverpool win, it stops their slump and it puts them back in the right direction. Now, Manchester United's form against Liverpool is not great. Liverpool have won 1, 2... Oh, actually, it's not too bad. They've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1. So, in spite of what your mind is telling you, the results show otherwise. When Liverpool have won, they've won 3-0. When they've drawn 2-2. And Manchester United won 4-3, and that was the FA Cup tie. So what does that tell you? If Liverpool win, well, let me tell you something. The draws have been at Liverpool's home. The wins, 1 draw. When Liverpool have won 3-0, they have been at Old Trafford. So there's a good case for defense of Liverpool. But then Liverpool's defense is a bit weak this time round. But if you're still going to have them, I would say you can still have Virgil van Dijk. And then you could have Gakpo and Ekitike. They haven't figured out that whole Isak Ekitike thing yet. But it's interesting. And Salah, if you have Salah, if you haven't removed him. Now, the thing about Liverpool, it's like, it feels to me like they're going through the transition we thought they would go through last season. He rocked the boat and changed a lot of things, and he was probably best leaving the team unchanged and maybe just adding on the fringes. Diaz has gone on to flourish, while Verse is looking tough. And he needs to make changes, but I don't think he's brave enough yet. So this game could be closer than you think. Maybe it could be one of those late goal things. Manchester United's defense has not been great. And if Sunderland had better finishers, they would have scored. Liverpool do have more clinical finishers. So the odds are they will score. So I wouldn't bank on Manchester United's defense. But I also wouldn't bank on Liverpool's defense either. If you're going to have Manchester United players, Sesko has been scoring. So I'd say Sesko, Bruno, and Mbomo. And Liverpool, like I said, I mean, it's Salah. You have to have Salah. He'll take the penalty. And then Gakpo and Ekitike. West Ham take on Brentford. And this might be the first, in quotes, easy game that Nuno Espirito Santo will have. The head-to-head shows that Brentford are the better team with 3 victories and 1 draw and 1 loss. Now, both teams under new management, so previous records may not hold. But mentally, Brentford players will be feeling like they have the edge. Now, if you're going to choose Brentford players, I would encourage Ouattara, Igor Thiago, and maybe Kelleher. From West Ham, Bowen, then Souček, and their defender, Diouf, not Wan-Bissaka, Diouf, because he will be the one to create with an assist or from a corner or set piece, something like that. Now, the most important thing is to just note when your players arrive, especially if you're having South Americans because of jet lag and all that. Richarlison might not play again. João Pedro might not play. Estival might not play. Caicedo might not play. Or they might play in a limited role or be withdrawn early. Now, the reports won't really come in until tomorrow and close to Friday. So if you've delayed this long without making a transfer, just hold on a little bit longer. It doesn't hurt to be extra careful, and the injury reports will be clearer by then. When it comes to captain choices, I think I will start doing this in a different way. I'll start from what I think is the most obvious captain choice, and I will start with number 1, Haaland should be your captain. And then number 2, Semenyo, because in spite of the odds, both of them have been performing well. Now, after that, looking at Chelsea versus Forest, I wouldn't choose a captain from this game over those 2. Newcastle versus Brighton, I wouldn't choose a captain over those 2. Leeds versus Burnley, I wouldn't choose one over those 2. Sunderland Wolves, wouldn't choose a captain over those 2. Fulham, Arsenal, I could see people taking Saka, maybe as a third captain, third best captain. That makes sense to me. Aston Villa, Spurs, let's see. If you believe in Marlon, that would be a bit of a gamble. Or Rodgers, still a gamble, but those are the only 2 odds in this fixture. Liverpool versus Man United, it sucks to say this, but Salah, but that would be the 4th captain. And then Brentford, West Ham, I wouldn't choose a captain over the other ones. Now, those are the obvious 4 captains to me. But of course, as always, you're free to choose who you want. I'm sure there'll be somebody who chooses Sesko, and that's not really a bad idea. He's been scoring the last 2 games. Why not a third one, you know? Anyway, let's look at the FDR. Arsenal take on Fulham, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Sunderland, and Tottenham. Honestly, this is a time to get into Arsenal's defense. And just Arsenal generally, these are good fixtures for them. Aston Villa take on Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, Bournemouth, and then Leeds. So they will ramp up in difficulty in the fixtures up until the Liverpool game, and then it would be a good spell to own Aston Villa players. It's a great thing that they have picked up form of late because they knew they were entering into a tough set of fixtures. Bournemouth have Crystal Palace, Forest, Man City, Aston Villa, and then West Ham. So for Bournemouth, they're never clear favourites, but they're also not underdogs. But they're slight underdogs, and I believe they can cause upsets, as they have been all season. It is their best start to a campaign. So just continue to believe in that regardless of who they play. They will surprise you. Brentford have West Ham, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, and Brighton. Outside the Liverpool games, they could be competitive in the rest. Crystal Palace are difficult, Newcastle are difficult, don't get me wrong, but Brentford aren't that far behind them. It'll be interesting. Watch their space. Brighton take on Newcastle, Manchester United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, and Brentford. Newcastle and Manchester United will be tricky fixtures because Newcastle are good, but the rest just because. But Brighton, I can see them winning 3 out of these 5 games. I'm just trying to decide for them who would be more difficult, Crystal Palace or Manchester United. Burnley have Leeds, Wolves, Arsenal, West Ham, and Chelsea. Honestly, outside Arsenal, they have good games. Chelsea are currently going through an injury crisis, which makes their fixtures a bit kind to them. They have Forest, Sunderland, Spurs, Wolves, and Burnley. These are all sides they could beat very easily had they been fully fit, but because they aren't, the games will be more competitive, but I still believe that they should have the advantage. This is the right time to have these fixtures when you're undermanned as opposed to having more difficult fixtures. If you find the right piece in Chelsea or the right pieces, you could be in for some returns. Crystal Palace have Bournemouth, Arsenal, Brentford, Brighton, and Wolves. Now, if you're not already into Crystal Palace players, I would encourage you to get into them after the Arsenal game, because the fixtures after that will be much kinder to them. Everton have Man City, Tottenham, Sunderland, Fulham, and Man United. I would say after the Spurs game, that's when you should be looking to get into Everton if you're not already in them. Now, Fulham have Arsenal, Newcastle, Wolves, Everton, and Sunderland. Now, Newcastle and Arsenal will be tough fixtures for sure, but the 3 after that will be kind. And if their striking crisis is resolved by that time, those will be a good fixtures to have Fulham players. Leeds have Burnley, West Ham, Brighton, Forest, and Aston Villa. These are favorable fixtures for them, and if you're looking to get into Leeds players, this is it. This is the time. Liverpool have Man United, Brentford, Aston Villa, Man City, and Forest. Now, for Liverpool, they're in transition. They're the champions, so they're favored, and I believe that even though they're in transition, they should still be able to score. It's just a matter of, will it be Gakpo, Szoboszlai, Ekitike, Isak, Salah? If you figure out who that person is for you, then you'll be fine. Man City have Everton, Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Now, honestly, after that Everton game, their fixtures increase in difficulty. Even though that will be the case, I still believe Haaland will perform. Maybe apart from the Liverpool game, I believe he will be good. So if you're not sure about Man City's performance, I guess just believe in Haaland. Manchester United have Liverpool, Brighton, Forest, Spurs, and Everton. Now, they recently defeated Sunderland. I don't know if that means anything, but if it means that they're back, maybe they are. I don't know. Now, Liverpool will be a tough game. I wouldn't encourage you to get into this game. But maybe after that, it might be worth having their assets, because I feel like they had a very rough start to the season in terms of fixtures. And I believe the fixtures are going to be a little bit kinder now that all the big dogs are out of the way. Newcastle have Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, and Manchester City. Manchester City will be their toughest encounter of this next 5 fixtures. However, they're not so good away from home as they are at home, and Fulham and Man City are the only home games. So that makes it a bit tough. But who knows? Voltemada might be the guy to break this rot of theirs of away fixtures. But these are good fixtures for them. Forest have Chelsea, Bournemouth, Man United, Leeds, and Liverpool. The problem with Forest is that they don't have an identity yet. And until we know who they are, you're better off betting against them than betting on them. So I wouldn't encourage you to get into them right now. Spurs have Villa, Everton, Chelsea, Man United, and Arsenal. So the fixtures outside the Everton game seem to be ramping up in difficulty. And I would be honestly encouraging you to get off Spurs players right now until after the London Derby. And if you have to, maybe just have Kudus. Sunderland have Wolves, Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, and Fulham. Now, outside Chelsea and Arsenal, I believe that they could get results in the other three fixtures, be it a draw or a win. West Ham have Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley, and Bournemouth. I think this is a perfect set of fixtures for Nuno Espirito Santo to figure out what he has with West Ham. And it will be, at some point, a good point for us to figure out who they are and who the assets are outside Bowen. Wolves have Sunderland, Burnley, Fulham, Chelsea, and Crystal Palace. Now, I had previously said that Wolves have a good set of fixtures, and they're coming to the tail end of that, and the fixtures will begin to ramp up in difficulty after the Fulham game. So, if they're going to win, it's within the next two games. They haven't lost in 3, but they need to start winning. They need to get at least a victory over Sunderland or a victory over Wolves. Over Burnley. And I think that will help them a lot. Now, we are at the end of the podcast. I hope you've had a good break, and I hope this international break gives us good results. The first one gave us great returns. I hope this one gives us another set of great returns. Outside that, I hope you're well. Have a great weekend. Bye.